Welcome back to Comicstorian. Today we're going to be introducing the brand new Doctor Strange 2099. This is the Comicstorian channel where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues, I break them down, cut out the fluff, and I give you the bare bones storyline, giving you a form of a narrative so you know what happens in your favorite comic books, and this allows you to add them to your collection or go buy the next issues yourself or just keep enjoying them here. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by respective companies. So we've been doing Spider-Man 2099 here on the channel every Wednesday, telling you the stories of a 90s version of a future Marvel. And when we last left off, Miguel has felt like he has failed. As Spider-Man, he has failed, and he refuses to go back to New York. So today we're going to do a single issue, and then we're going to give you the issue in which they introduce Doctor Strange 2099. Keep in mind, she's very edgy because this was the 90s. And if you enjoy this type of video, consider giving it a like if you don't mind. And remember that these videos are supported by our Patreon. Check that out if you want to get early access. Now let's get into Spider-Man 2099. Walking down a long stretch of highway, thinking about everything that has happened to him lately, a car suddenly pulls up next to Miguel and a female driver smiles. "Hey, handsome, need a lift?" she asks. He thanks her and begins to get into the car, but she suddenly sprays him with something in his eyes, kicking him out and grabbing his bag. "You think I don't know what's going through your mind? That I don't know what men want? Well, I just did it to you what you would have done to me, baby," she shouts before speeding off. Whatever she sprayed Miguel with begins to work and he curls up into a ball, his body shaking as day becomes night. And when he finally looks up, a large bus is parked in front of him. Well, you got yourself into another fine fix, Miguel," his friend says from the driver's seat. "Dash?" Miguel asks, recognizing his old friend that he hasn't seen in years. The guy smiles, offering him a lift, with Miguel getting on board. They then drive for a while, with Dash explaining that he's delivering a group of passengers to Velocity. Miguel is surprised, having never heard of it. Dash tells him to go check on all the passengers and Miguel heads into the back. It's there that he's shocked that he recognizes someone, with Angela waving at him. He turns back to his friend knowing that he's going crazy and demanding to be let out. But Dash's eyes widen as he looks up ahead and sees a roadblock. "Hold on, this will be tight," he shouts, slamming through the roadblock, skidding around the turn, continuing onward, the bus beginning to bounce up and down. "Why is this road so choppy?" Miguel demands. "Because it's paved with good intentions," Dash shouts, trying to keep the bus steady, as he tells Miguel that they need to get back to the main road. "I need you to change to Spider-Man and keep them off my butt," he shouts at Miguel. Miguel is shocked that Dash knows his secret, but his friend tells him that they have no time. Shortly, Spider-Man is clinging to the side of the bus, looking back to see a group of demonic bikers riding through the dust towards them. "Get them, my lovelies," the lead biker growls, and Spidey shoots out a web, pulling one of the bikes loose, sending it into its friends, causing a big explosion. But then another biker leaps off of his bike, grabbing onto the edge of the bus. Spidey kicks him away, with another coming up from behind. But Spidey whirls, slashing him across the face. As the biker falls away, the lead demon lands on the bus behind him. "So, Spider-Man, more vicious, more free with claws than in your earlier days?" The demon chuckles, and he begins to step forward, his claws morphing into a spike ball and a whip. "Care to try your talents against me?" he asks, leaping in to attack Spider-Man. The blow knocks him from the bus, but Spidey shoots out a web at the last second, bouncing against the pavement as he tries to pull himself back up onto the vehicle. "Hold on, Spider-Man, I'll be right there to help you. To an early grave," the demon biker hisses, revving his motor, rushing at the hero, but Spidey kicks him, slashing the demon's tires with his foot talons. He pulls himself back up to the bus, managing to stop the demon from breaking into Dash's cab, and with that they continue to fight, trading blows back and forth. "You have no clue what's really at stake. You're already mine and you don't even know it," the demon snarls, but Spider-Man kicks the demon away, knocking him off of the bus. But he flaps his massive wings, landing back onto his bike. Meanwhile, one of the other demons is pulling Angela from the bus, but Spider-Man comes in quickly and saves her. The head demon rushes up, trying to lash his whip around Angela's leg, but Spider-Man slashes through, bringing out gushes of green blood. The head demon bellowing in pain, turning his bike away from the fight. "Go then, cling to your petty victory, as if you've won something. The game finally begins. My poison is coursing through your veins. Your dying breath will be my name." The world then begins to fade as the bus enters a tunnel, blackness surrounding him. When his vision begins to clear, Miguel finds himself lying on the pavement, looking back at the face of Xena. "Can you hear me?" Miguel struggles to his feet as she explains that she couldn't leave him out on the endless highway alone. Luckily, I changed my mind. Seems you've got a guardian angel looking out for you, she says as she helps him into the car. And with that, we move to Mexico City, dead of night. The caretaker moving through the graveyard, shining his flashlight before him until he stops, finding a man with a shovel digging up a grave. Day of the Dead celebration or not, this is obscene, he shouts, ordering the man to put the shovel down. His eyes widen as fear as this man now charges at him, raising the shovel to strike. Meanwhile, the Sorcerer Supreme stares into her crystal ball, the image of Spider-Man conjuring before her. He will be your ally, a shadowy voice tells her, and a large smile splits across her face. Cool, she whispers. Meanwhile, Miguel O'Hara stares out the window at the gathering of partygoers in the streets. He and Xena have traveled to the city to celebrate the Day of the Dead, with Miguel still refusing to return to New York. Xena sits up in bed, asking why Miguel bothered to sleep on the couch last night. He doesn't turn, as he reminds her that they agreed to be friends. It's not like you're super irresistible, he tells her as he glances over her shoulder. Xena agrees, standing up, letting the sheets fall to the floor, and Miguel tries to avert his eyes while she walks towards the bathroom. He leans out the window, continuing to watch the streets below, but he turns, looking in shock, as he sees Gabe in the room next to his. Huh? They both exclaim, with Gabe getting so excited that he falls out the window. Miguel shoots out a web, snagging him and pulling him up. Would you mind telling me what you're doing here? He demands. But before Gabe can even answer, Xena walks out of the bathroom while toweling herself off, and both brothers stare at her in shock. Elsewhere in the city, the superintendent bangs on the door of Morgan's apartment, demanding to know what the young man is doing and what the smell is that people have been complaining about. The door creaks open, revealing the young man's sinister face. Do you really want to see what's in here? He asks, and the superintendent nods his head, snapping that he has a right. Morguez nods. Because if you enter, you will not leave, he says with a look of fear crossing the superintendent's face. So he declines and quickly runs away. Morguez closes the door, turning back to the body of his sister on the floor. He shatters the skylight above their heads, flooding the room with moonlight, and begins his ritual. Meanwhile, back on the streets, the brothers Miguel and Gabe and their girls have joined the celebration. The noise allows Gabe to tell Miguel about how Casey doesn't believe that he isn't Spider-Man. High above their heads, though, Doctor Strange sits atop a speeding hoverbus, trying to pull her leather jacket tighter around her. Man, it's freezing here. Next time I just conjure a ticket or something, she hisses. Back in his apartment, Morguez raises his amulet over his head, calling upon the power of the Dark Ones. In this Day of the Dead, make your day mine as well, he shouts, blinding light shooting out of the amulet and into the sky. Back on the street, Miguel turns to see the light shooting out of a nearby building. He stares at it for a moment until the light fills his vision and he stumbles backwards, unable to see. The shocking light show blinded me, he shouts to his brother. Strange looking out of the light as well, her eyes narrowing. Definitely my stop, she says, and as the light goes out, Morguez looks down at his sister, but she doesn't move. Nita, say something, he begs her, falling to his knees, remembering that he promised his sister that he would always look out for her, always take care of her. No matter what, he reaches out for her hand, tears in his eyes. I'm so sorry, Nita. I was so sure. It took me years to find the amulet. It should have worked. It should have brought you back, he whispers to her dead body. But at the graveyard, the ground splits open and the dead begin to rise, pulling themselves out of their graves. At the local hospital, the doctor finishes explaining to Gabe and the girls that Miguel has been temporarily blinded by the light that he saw, and is insisting that they just go back to the celebration. I promise you, he's not going anywhere, the doctor tells them with a smile. Miguel lands on the rooftops outside of his hospital room, clad in his Spider-Man suit. He turns, his vision still blurry, seeing someone approach. Oh no, risque again, he shouts, shooting a web, but a blast fires out, ripping through the webbing, and the Sorcerer Supreme floats before him. At ease, S-Man, I'm not this risque person. I'm Strange, and I'm whacked out. What's your point? Spider-Man tells her. She continues to float before him, explaining that something is happening in the city and he is supposed to help her out. Oh yeah? And just what is happening? I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it's pretty grave. Below them, the undead begin to walk the streets. A short time later, the two of them explode through what remains of Morgan's skylight. All right, I want to know what's going on here, Spider-Man shouts, but Strange taps him on the shoulder. He's over there. You're yelling at a piñata, she whispers to him. Spidey turns, quietly cursing his still fuzzy vision. They both see the young man kneeling before the body of his sister, the amulet still around his neck. I wanted to help my sister, he says quietly and holds up the amulet, explaining that it was meant to revive her. Maybe I'd better hang on to that, Strange says, reaching out for the magical item. But it burns her as her fingers touch it, launching her across the room. Spidey moves to check on her, but she whirls, her features having shifted into something more demonic. Give it to me! She snarls at him. Over on the streets, Gabe, Casey, and Xena are still enjoying the party, unaware that the dead are moving around them. In the apartment, Strange slams Spider-Man into the wall, beginning to choke the life out of him. We're on the same team, remember? He gasps at her, but she turns, throwing him across the room. He leaps up, launching himself at her, but she grabs him, throwing him through the door. He tries to punch, but she ducks underneath, hitting him in the stomach. Hand it over, Morguez, so I can kill you! She snarls at the young man. Back on the streets, Gabe accidentally bumps into someone, and he quickly apologizes, but the zombie turns, snarling at him. Oh, man, you didn't brush your teeth today! Still unaware that the man isn't someone in costume, the undead man pushes him to the ground, reaching for his throat. Casey tries to pull the monster off, but only manages to tear off its arm. Of course, she then begins to scream in shock. Back at the apartment, Dr. Strange throws the struggling Spider-Man onto the fire escape, but the web slinger leaps up, firing a web at her, pinning her to the bars. Mortal fool! You think your pathetic little threads can hold me? She demands, but shakes her head, explaining that he just needs to pin her long enough for a punch. He leaps forward, clocking her, and she slumps for a moment before struggling back to her feet, her features returning to that of a young woman. It's okay. I'm all right now. She gasps at him, and he demands to know what happened, but she tells him that she isn't sure. Where did Morguez go? She asks, and Spidey turns, trying to use his enhanced vision to find the young man, but his eyes widen as he sees the undead moving through the streets, attacking people. You're the Sorcerer, Strange. Can't you throw down a spell to calm everyone? Smoke clouds, card tricks? He asks her, but she shakes her head, explaining that the only way to stop the spell is to shut down Morguez. They both turn as Morguez's sister walks towards them, Strange raising her hands, prepared to use a spell to send the woman back to the underworld. But Spider-Man stops her. No, wait, hold on, I got an idea. Elsewhere, Morguez is sitting in a nearby alleyway, staring at the amulet in his hands, remembering the day that he was playing with his father's rifle, when Nita jumped behind him and scared him. He turned sharply, his finger pulled the trigger, and he sent the round through her chest. I didn't know. It's unfair that others live and you don't, he whispers with tears in his eyes. On the city streets, Casey is about to be trampled by a crowd of scared partiers, but Spidey reaches down, grabbing her, pulling her back to safety, depositing her on a nearby window. Stay put, he says quickly, and he leaps back into the streets, fighting off the undead hordes. Morguez has gotten to his feet, seeing the other undead coming towards him. Shocked by the undead that he has risen, he turns back when he hears his sister's voice, and he sees her walking towards him, reaching out for him, and Strange floating nearby. What have you done? His sister asks him, and despair fills Morguez as he sees her, explaining that he thought that she would return fully restored. I wanted to make up for killing you, he gasps at her, and she cocks her head at him. You killed me? She asks, stepping forward, telling him that she is cold, that she wants to return to the warmth and the light where she was. Let me go back, she asks. He nods, handing her the amulet, but he reaches out, hugging her, promising that he will be with her going forward. No, wait, don't! Strange shouts, rushing forward, but the flames burst around the pair of them, and they disappear. Spider-Man stops fighting as the undead have turned and begun to walk back to the cemetery. He quickly finds Strange, who is staring sadly at the simmering flames where Morguez and his sister once stood. What about the amulet? He asks, and she nods, kneeling over the ancient magical artifact. You mean, how do I handle a talisman capable of spitting in the face of Providence and generating despair and destruction? She asks him, and she stands, smashing it beneath the heel of her combat boot. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. And there you have it, the conclusion to the introduction of Doctor Strange 2099 and Spider-Man 2099. Now, if you liked this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. We try to bring you these Spider-Man videos every Wednesday, and you can check back right then and find them sitting here waiting for you. Thank you so much for your continued support, and I'll see you next time right here.